talking and connecting. Chris Salerno. Chris is in Charlotte, North Carolina. The dude is 29 years old, one of the top CEOs voted in Charlotte as one of the top young CEOs in the city of Charlotte, founder and CEO of QC Capital, author of the multifamily book. This dude is absolutely crushing it. Chris, welcome to As the Leader Grows, my friend.
Hey, Ken, thanks so much for having me. Excited to have a conversation and let everyone listen to our conversation as well. Thanks again.
Yeah, pump, dude. Tell our audience real quick a little bit about 29 years old is impressive as hell. Tell our audience real quick about you in Charlotte, a little bit about your company, what you guys do. You've got your own private equity firm at 28 years old. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, love Charlotte, North Carolina. Been here over 18 and a half years. Single father. I have a 4.5-year-old son. It feels like I told you, going on 25. He just wows me every time we have a conversation. But I think the big thing, what I do is that he's here at work with me. So he's in the office, and when we have meetings, he sits in our meetings. I want him to hear what's going on so he can absorb it, because if he's playing on a game, which he doesn't when we're in meetings, and he's just sitting there, it's astonishing how quickly they absorb information. So I always like to bring him to the office. But around a decade ago, I got into the residential real estate market, where I grew a company to about 40 million in annual sales in a year and a half. I saw an opportunity and I took it. From there, I sold that company to a larger company, and then I became their COO. As their COO, I brought them from 92 million all the way up to 147 million in about 2 years. After that, I got a little burnt out just because there was a lot of feelings involved, and I'm more, hey, black and white, it's business. On top of that, Uncle Sam started knocking on my door at a young age, which no one tells you this, saying, hey, you're making too much money, you need to pay quarterly taxes. And I just refused. I said, I'm not going to be doing this. So I ended up educating myself on depreciation and why all these billionaires don't pay taxes. It is legal. There's a tax code out there. You just have to read it. And so I figured out how to do that. I ended up creating QC Capital. Fast forward to 2022, we held roughly $500 million worth of real estate under management just in a quick 3 to 4 years. From there, so I saw where the market was headed in the multifamily space, sold off assets, and then now we are in the the car wash industry, which we are super excited about. We are heavily involved in it. We foresee that for the next decade. Right now, just in our first year, we'll end the first year with 10 assets. Next year, we'll probably have around 30 total. Wow. And that right there would put us about probably 200 to 250 million just in car wash real estate assets that we have.
I love that. So let me ask you a question, because I love what you talked about. I mean, I've got 4 daughters. When we do our Create conference here in Atlanta, we have hundreds of people. 2 or 3 of my daughters are there I'm a church planner, so they helped me plant a church and they were kids. And they love it. They're serving at the table and doing registration. My oldest daughter is 28. She's got my most precious 8-month old granddaughter.
I love it.
They love serving. They love being around their dad, and they've seen that now for 20 plus years. Wow. You talked about the importance with your son, especially as a single dad, bringing him in and showing him, I love it, dude. That's probably one of the greatest things I've ever heard. And I interview some amazing people. Where did you learn that at? Where did it come for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ken. I learned that from my father. When I was my son's age, I was in a suit and tie. And they have pictures of me falling asleep in a chair, late at night when they're at a conference or in a meeting. And it's a catch-22. Throughout everyone's childhood, I didn't grow up from a wealthy family. I grew up from a lower middle class family, which they lived paycheck to every other paycheck. So essentially in debt their whole life. And so I always say my parents taught me what not to do, how not to invest, how not to manage money, how not to grow money, how not to respect money. And so I did the complete opposite, and thankfully I have a wonderful business, great employees, great family. And when it comes to my son, my goal is to be a leader. My goal is to show him by example. Now, I can only do so much. As he gets older, he's going to want to try things on his own. And I have to sit there and tell him, hey, don't do this. Let him do it so he learns that he has to fail but keep pushing through. And so let
me stop you really quick, Chris, on this. Because I want to get to the root of you. Like, you grew up in that. I mean, I get, but what in you went, I want something different. This is not what I want. I want something different. And I'm going to go out and find, because I really believe you're only 2 things away from the next level. in your life.
Correct.
The right
100%.
information, and as Grant Cardone would say, the right amount of action.
That's
But
right.
what in you was the trigger, Chris, that made you go, I'm not cool with this. I want to go do something else.
And Grant's right. The right amount of action. I think with that action, you have to have the right mindset and the right discipline, which is a lot of people don't have discipline in life and throughout business. That really eye-opening experience was going around to wealthy areas. I didn't live in a good area, and back then we didn't have iPhones. So I was on my bicycle, and I had to ride to find new friends. I had to ride to just explore. You know, I wasn't on my iPhone back then, didn't even have one. So I rode on my bike to the wealthy area. And I saw how the wealthy lived, I saw how the poor lived, and I saw how the middle class lived. And I saw that the wealthy looked a lot happier, and they were a lot more fulfilled. Now, don't get me wrong, fulfilling is catch-22 in certain circumstances, but I noticed that lifestyle. Money, at the end of the day, does provide freedom, and it does provide happiness to a certain extent. The happiness it provides, money provides experiences, which causes happiness. And so I realized that at a very, very young age. I think I was like 10 or 11 years old by analyzing that. And from there, I said, look, I will not grow up this way. If you ever come to Charlotte, I'll let you come to my house, Kent. You may have to put on a hoodie because it's around 62 degrees in my home.
That sounds just like Nate's house. Dude, I had my Lulu joggers, my Jordans, and my Lulu hoodie on in his house yesterday. Same
I
exact
love
thing.
it. Yeah, and the reason why I have that is because I grew up in Florida with no AC, and because my parents, one, did not want to spend the money, and so I said, okay, well, now I've made the money, I'm gonna keep my house as cold as I want to keep my house. And so but I realized how the wealthy lived. I realized how many options, and life's about experiences. I'm not a big gift receiver, so if you're giving me a gift, you know, obviously I'll be very appreciative of it. I love experiences. I love to go travel to Italy. I love to, you know, come down to Atlanta, hang out with you, have a nice dinner with you. That's an experience that I'll have compared to just giving me a gift. And so I realized wealthy individuals can create unlimited experiences, which also causes happiness. But our world is surrounded by money. You have to understand how to respect money and make it and multiply it to essentially get to where you want to be.
I love that because you said that, and I want to go back a little bit about your journey. Grant always says money's like a woman. If you don't pay attention to it, it'll leave.
Oh yeah,
Like
most
it will.
definitely. And if you don't respect it, it will also leave.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so you
100%.
need to understand how to nurture it, how to respect it, and then also how to grow it.
Who are some of the people early in your? I mean, you're 29, so it's still early. Who are some of the people in your life when you said, "Hey, I want this different"? Like you're biking into wealthier neighborhoods and areas of town to see whether. And I don't know if you know Jesse Itzler or not. Jesse did the same thing. When he was
really?
in Hollywood, Jesse would go when he was broke. He would go to some of the hotels in LA and some of the nicer areas and have lunch and just have water and one thing just so he could be in that atmosphere. And that's how he
100%.
started connecting with people.
So to touch on that real quick, I remember a neighborhood that I think they fixed it. They put some spacers below it, but whoever the developer wasn't intelligent. But they built a fence, and it was a 2 to 3 feet clearance at the very bottom. So I'd throw my bike under, and I'd go under the fence, and then I'd get on my bike and just ride through the homes. Back then they were $800 to $1 million. Now they're probably $2 million homes. And I would just ride through there, see people outside, see the cars, feel the energy, the atmosphere. But I'm not going to let a little gate, stop me. And you have to go above and beyond to get into those rooms to feel that energy, because it is a different energy. It's a different lifestyle, and it's a different mindset. And if you don't prepare your mindset for that, you're not going to get to that.
I love that because mindset's huge. I mean, that's
100%.
one of the things I talk a lot about is, and one of my 5 affirmations I do in the morning is I'll live a life where my heart, my head, and my relationships are in alignment, because your heart's where you dream and paint the picture. Like God has gifted us to be able to be creators, and we can see some unbelievable things for our life. But if our mindset isn't where it needs to be, man, our dreams will trip over our mindset
100%.
and you literally will lose hope because your mindset keeps getting you stuck in a loop. Who are
I
some?
I professionally meditate on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I meditate twice a day by myself. But on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 8, if you try to text me, Ken, you're not going to get a response because I turn my phone off and I'm in a professional meditation room with a person who's guiding me through breathing work. Like that's the extent I go to, and I'm even going to retreats next year to take that to a whole different level because Ken, you only have one mind. So why
Oh,
wouldn't you
so
pour
good.
it with great information? Why wouldn't you get healthy, and feed your body with nutritional type of foods and water because you only have one mind. You cannot change it. They haven't done brain implants yet. I think Elon will probably be the first one to put a computer in a brain or in a head, but you have to make sure you preserve it and take care of it.
Yeah.
And I realized that very quickly, and that's why I only like to fulfill great things in my mind.
Yeah, and we'll get to the nutrition part and the health part
Yeah.
because you and I have got someone common that we admire. But who are
Oh
some
yeah.
of the people for you
Yeah.
in your,
So
I was say in your 20s, but you're still in your 20s, in your early
I know.
20s, that were people that you looked to or listened to or read their books?
Yeah. So I will tell you, throughout high school, I went to college, ran Division I track. I dropped out of college. They were going to give me a partial scholarship, and I actually dropped out to create a business and learned a lot through that proposal of that business. That did it didn't I didn't get the contract, but I learned a lot through that. And so they actually put me in special reading classes. And they said you're dyslexic. You need to learn how to read. I had teachers reading me tests. I had to listen to tests on headphones. And I just realized looking back is I didn't get excuse my French, maybe beep it out. I didn't give a shit what they were trying to teach me because I did not find it being relevant to in society.
Right.
And so that's why I wasn't intrigued. But my number one book I love is Think and Grow Rich. That is a book that I read and I fell in love with it. I read it so quickly. And then I said, okay, well, instead of go party on spring break, I'm going to go sit my butt in Barnes and Noble. And I'm going to understand what a stock, what a bond is, mutual fund, what options are, what real estate, what type of real estate assets there are out there. And that's what I did. And I fell in love with reading. Now I can listen to a book on 2.5x speed,
Wow.
depending on the book, 3x. I can read through a book very, very quickly. Why? Because I'm passionate about business, mindset, health. And so I would say Think and Grow Rich would be the number one book. But I grew up with Eric Thomas. I was fortunate to meet him. Great guy. Grew up with him. His motivational
ET's a good
background.
friend.
Love ET. Love ET. And then from there, really started getting knowledgeable about John Maxwell. Everything he's done. I mean, very knowledgeable individual. David Goggins. Those individuals has tapped into a mindset that everyone should strive to and not necessarily, David Goggins of running miles. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have to tap into, hey, I want to run miles like David, but you can tap in, hey, I want to get my business to a 10x level,
Yeah.
but I need my mindset there. Because as a business owner, depending on what type of business you're in, I'm in private equity. So I'm dealing with lawsuits every single, not every single day, but every week, here or there, dealing with issues every single day. I wake up with issues and I know that. But if I had a poor mindset, I wouldn't be able to build the company I am and multiple companies that I have coming online by the end of this year. And I think David Goggins, ET, John Maxwell all touch on that type of mindset, which you need to make sure you take care of because, again, you only have one mind.
I love that because with David, his thing being a Navy SEAL is like what you think your limits are really not your limits. Like there's more in you than you think. Like when you think, okay, I'm done. No, you have extra push. Speak real quick, and I'm gonna let me drop this book. I don't know if you read this. It's "Thou Shalt Prosper: 10 Commandments in Making Money" by Rabbi
I've heard of
Daniel
it.
Lapin.
I've
Bro,
heard of
it's
it.
like I'm on my second time through. It's why the percentage of Jewish people are wealthy. Like the vast majority of wealth in the world are owned by about 2% of the population. It's absolutely an unbelievable book on why they're wealthy. So anyway, I threw that out
Yeah.
there to you. But the mindset component for guys like David Goggins are like you can do more than you think you can. But entrepreneurship is tough. Like it's hard. What are some of the lessons that you've learned? Because you've walked me through. I did this, and then I did this, and then we sold off, and then now I'm doing these car washes.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned, maybe in the last 12 to 24 months?
Biggest lessons to learn that I have really analyzed is with the investment side of QC Capital, I don't want a big organization. Look at Warren Buffett. He only has 12 to 15 employees on the investment side. Yet he owns a lot of businesses, and he also has one of the largest capital holdings of just capital sitting in the bank ready to deploy. And so a big lesson I've learned is don't be too big enough to not pivot, because market cycles are going to come. We saw in a market cycle through COVID shutting down lots of businesses. What happened with the businesses that got shut down? They didn't pivot to online sales. The ones that pivoted to online sales, they got through, and then now they're flourishing even more than what they did. So don't be too big enough to pivot is something I would definitely say. Don't be afraid to pivot. You have to go ahead and do that. I think a big thing I've learned as well is that it takes about 12 to 14 months to be fully immersed in any type of industry. And that's with knowledge, experience, and things like that. So when you do pivot, expect 12 to 14 month runway from personal experience. And then another big thing is I studied a lot of billionaires. And I've understood the businesses they've created, and it's great looking at a billionaire and their success. But when I look at a billionaire, I want to see their failures. I want to see what did they do through their failures. Why did they make those decisions? And what information was presented to them, and what information did they get to make that decision to either pivot or change something within their companies to ultimately have them have that success. And a lot of it I see is a lot of these billionaires have consistency and they have self-discipline. And you have to learn how to practice that. But those are some big things that I've learned over the past 12 to 24 months, especially firsthand in business, pivoting, and then also studying every billionaire, all your top billionaires on, yes, it's great to see their successes, but you should also study their failures so you don't make those same mistakes.
100%. People will tell me, just yesterday it happened. I was sitting in the parking lot in the gym talking to a friend of mine in California, and she was like, Ken, you're so wise. I said, do you know how many mistakes I've made in 56 years?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how many friends that I have, very close friends, that I get to watch their life and I get to learn from their mistakes as well?
Oh, yeah.
I love how you said on when you talked about pivot. Have you read Good to Great?
Oh,
Jim
love
Collins?
that book.
So
Oh,
where he
yes.
talks about the S curve and then the doom loop. Like for you, when you're growing, because for those of you guys that may not know the S curve and doom loop and the Good to Great, it's literally like as your company's growing up and to the right, and then all of a sudden it's that free fall, and then you start doing the same things and more of the same things that got you that momentum.
Correct.
And all it does is cause the crash to go faster.
And if you, real quick, I'm going to interrupt. If everyone's been on an airplane, I'd hope, when you get on an airplane, you take off. And right when the plane starts to settle and you kind of feel your stomach just give out, that's what it's just like that curve.
So when you pivoted the last time out of multifamily into the car washes, walk me through that journey with you. Like, what was the aha moment that Chris Salerno had to go, I need to pivot out of this. I need to make a transition.
So
and that's going to be one question. Let me ask this because I'll forget it because I'm super.
Let's do it.
How did you battle the fear of doing that?
That's a good one. So as the owner of, the only owner, I own 100% of the company. As the owner of the company, you have a lot on your plate. You have to say, okay, well, we have a handful of investors, couple hundred investors that are used to us seeing multifamily. How do we start educating them on the car wash sector and get them comfortable with us operating car washes? Because they know we can operate multifamily, but now it's a whole different asset class. It's a whole different ball game, whole different animal. It's actually a true business. How do we get them to feel comfortable with doing it? And some didn't, and some did because they trusted us at a very high level. So some said, yes, we know you can do it. Some said, hey, we want to see how you guys perform, and then we'll invest. And so really it was educating them first. So there's a lot of pillars. So I had to make sure, okay, pivoting here, we need to educate our investors about the car wash industry. Why is it lucrative? Why we can provide high cash flow, better tax benefits than any other commercial real estate asset class out there. And then before I had to do that, I said to my team, there's no way that we can increase rents $200 to $400 per unit with just paint and carpet. Don't get me wrong. our investors and we are taking advantage of it. I said, but there's no way that's going to last a long time. The economy in the United States cannot do that. So I said, sell off the assets that we can sell off with the right, because of the debt that we have on it. I said, sell off the assets we can sell off right now. So we did that, and our investors were so happy. They walked away with over 35 plus ARR returns. They were ecstatic. Then I said, okay, there's going to be a very strong struggle in the next 3 to 5 years in the multifamily space. And I still believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, very strong struggle in the multifamily space. We can dive into it on another podcast, but there's going to be. And so I said, we need to pivot asset classes. Self-storage is saturated. It's going to go ahead and start declining like multifamily. I love the cash flow of mobile home parks. I'm not a fan of the clientele that uses mobile home parks. So I said, we're not doing that. So then I realized about car washes being 85 to 90% mom and pop. And so once I started analyzing that, it took me about 2 to 2.5 months of deep research. Then I started educating our investors with articles, with posts about me looking into the car washes. So they're now psychologically, because here's a book. If no one has ever read this book, make sure you write it down. It's called Giftology. The book is called Giftology, and I'll touch on why I love this book towards the very end. However, I started educating them through articles on why we like the car washes, the statistics, the growth, why the tax benefits are so high, why the cash flow is so high. And then after that, it took me another 6 months. So that's already 3.5 months before I started educating them. Then it took me another 6 months of a lot of educational content. But throughout that 6 months, on my social media, on my Instagram, I started posting pictures of me visiting car washes, me going to manufacturers, me flying all up and down the East Coast, Midwest to chemical providers, equipment providers, you name it. And I started taking pictures and started educating all of our investors on it. And then from there, that's when we announced, after about a year, we're getting into the car wash sector. And you guys already seen why, because I've been posting about it. I've already built it up. This is what we're doing now. And then from there, it started growing substantially.
I love that. So talk about, so you're doing that. I love that strategic plan.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, because this has been a huge topic for us, because we have so many things going on right now on the strategic planning side. I'd love to ask you, like, how long did it take you to come up with a good strategic plan to implement everything you just talked about?
I don't sleep much. So Ken, if you text me at 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, I'll respond to you.
Listen, if you text me at 8:45, my ass is already asleep. So now I'm up at 4. I was up at 3:30 something this morning.
I love it. There you go. There you go. I don't know. I've been gifted with high energy. I don't sleep much. I sleep 4 to, if on a good day, 6 hours, and that's it. And I can operate at a very high level. So when everyone is on Instagram, looking at things, I'm researching business. I'm understanding business, understand market trends. And so to really put together a strategy, it did take me a couple months because, again, we have a lot of investors that we are, now educating on a new asset class. I got to make sure they feel comfortable with us operating. And thankfully, we'll end this year of 2024. I don't know when this airs, but we'll end this year of 2024 with 10 sites. We have a COO that has over 12 years of car wash experience. We're hitting the ground running. Next year, we should do around 20 sites, which puts us at 30 sites in total. I would love to see more than 20. But it took me a couple months to get the strategy essentially put together. We looked at development. We said, no, we're not doing development. It's going to take 2 to 3 years. Investors are not going to get cash flow by them, plus all the politics. I don't want to get in it. So then we switched to acquisitions. And then that's what I said, okay, we can take these type of opportunities because your mom and pops will say, when you ask for a P&L, first they'll be like, what's that? Then you'll have to explain to them what a P&L is. And then after that, they give you a napkin or a picture that they just took of a napkin with their P&L on it. So now we're scratching our heads and we're like, okay, now we got to get the bank statements. Now we got to go ahead and get tax returns to make sure we back into these numbers, POS reports. And so it's a whole different ballgame, but that sees opportunities for individuals like you and myself who understand business, where we can buy these operating businesses that are not operating to our level at a corporate level, doesn't have the right systems and processes. And we go in there because you and I have already done it with different type of businesses and implement those systems and processes and just grow it. And so that's essentially everything I ran through in my head just in a couple months. Then, like you said, Grant Cardone says, you got to put it into action. You got to take action on it. And so taking action, no, the biggest failure of individuals is them not necessarily failing after they took action. It's them doubting themselves before they took action.
Yeah,
And
that's,
that's
it
the
goes back
biggest
to the mindset thing we talked about earlier.
Correct.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
your
always,
mind-
I tell people,
it's
listen,
always
it is always mindset.
Yes.
And the majority of people, the reason it's mindset is because you don't get around the right people to be
Correct.
able to. When I met Grant 5 years ago, this past week,
Oh,
he
nice.
looked at me. I walked out in the hallway after hearing a 25K Grant Cardone licensee pitch with 400 or 500 people. And I was one of three that took action. I walked
Yeah.
down the hallway and we're standing there, and Grant is coming down the hallway with two of his bodyguards, and he's like 5'5". He's a little bitty dude.
Oh, wow.
And he sees me and he makes eye contact about 15 feet away, and he does not break it. He walks right up, puts his finger right in my face, and goes, "Why are you here?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Grant, I'm here to blow the lid off my mindset of what's a lot of money. And I want to help pastors equip their business leaders in their church so they can grow their businesses, so they can in turn fund the vision and the mission of that pastor."
Yeah.
And Grant spent
I love
5
that.
minutes talking to me, and he looked at me and goes, "Ken, if you'll let me, I'll help you." I said, "Okay, I will." And that was the difference, because it's mindset and it's being in the right rooms. In my planner I created, I have a quote right here on the bottom. Get in rooms with people who think bigger than you do.
That's right.
And when you get in the rooms and you get around people, you mentioned John Maxwell, and you're reading David Goggins, and Jim Collins, Good to Great, like all these books that we just talked about. When you're doing those things, man, it is literally lifting the lid off of you every time that you
Oh
do
my
that.
God. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned giftology.
Yes.
So John Rulin was a really, really good friend of mine.
Oh, really?
So yeah, John was
Oh, wow.
was a dear friend. How did that book and John's gift for that, how
Mm-hmm.
did that make a difference in what you're doing?
We implement that book on everything we do. And Giftology, for those who haven't read it, go out and read it. Buy it on Amazon, listen to it on Audible. But I'll give you a little snippet. I'm not going to tell you the whole book, but one of the major things we do and really we model it, and I built it out after Giftology, is that it's a psychological play. Is that when you invest with us, we don't tell investors this, but if you're listening to this and you end up investing with us, you're going to know. But we send investors gifts after they invest with us. And when they get this gift, it's a beautiful white box with our logo only on the box. And then it's a handwritten card from me. And then everything in the box, depending on the amount you invest with us, everything in that box has your last name on it. And it's a psychological play. So if if you're one of our bigger investors, Ken, you're gonna get the whole package. But one of our top packages is a handcrafted wooden bamboo charcuterie board, and you pull out the bottom. It has knives there. Like, it is the whole perfect entertainment for if anyone's coming to your house. And then on that, it has your last name on it. And so what's gonna happen is every time you go out and take that board out, your wife takes that board out to cut those steaks that you like to cook, you're going to think of who got you that cutting board.
Yeah.
Every time you go get one of our hand custom made Yeti cups, you're going to think of who got you that. And you're going to use it because it has your name on it. And then when you're entertaining, people are going to be like, "Oh, wow, that's a really nice cutting board." And it's a pretty damn expensive cutting board, I'll tell you that. And I got to buy a lot of them too. But hey, I'm okay doing it. But your guests are going to be like, "Wow, that's a beautiful cutting board. Where'd you get that?" You're going to think of us as a company. And then what? Now that just sparked up
I'm
the
going to promote you.
conversation.
Yeah.
So that's what we do when it comes to our gifts. The only branding we have is on the box and on the handwritten card I have. Other than that, all the items inside are personalized because it is a psychological play where we are giving it to them. They're going to use it all the time because it has their last name on it. Whereas if it had QC Capital as our company name on it, they're going to keep it in the very back of the damn cabinet.
Right.
But it has their name on it. They're going to put it in the front of the cabinet. They're going to be proud to use it every single day, and they're always going to remember who got it for them.
I love that. What's one of the biggest things you've learned in the past 30 to 60 days? What's a lesson? What's something that you've learned?
Something I've definitely learned is learn how to stay disciplined. And that falls into dieting as well. We touched on that before we got on here, and I ended up hiring a nutrition coach that actually trained Zac Efron. He trains a lot of celebrities, but one being Zac Efron for the movie Baywatch. One late night, I got something came up, and I remembered that movie. And so I went in. I went on Instagram, found out who the coach was, slid in his DMs, ended up having a call with him and saying, "Hey, I need someone to write me a full meal plan based off of my macros, micros, all that, and a full workout schedule." And boom. And so that discipline of making sure you're eating healthy throughout the month, making sure you are, staying disciplined, and there's a chocolate cake, not eating chocolate cake, that falls over to your business and staying disciplined. There's a deal that's right outside of Atlanta. I looked at a couple days ago, right down the street from a couple of our assets that we have. This deal is beautiful. It's gorgeous. Numbers are wildly profitable. However, I can't get comfortable with the deal, so I'm not moving forward with it. Whereas most people would go ahead and just move forward with it and take the risk, I'm being disciplined because I don't have all the boxes checked. And so I'm being disciplined before I put my personal capital in and any of our investors' capital in. And so that discipline, again, also helps in the world of health and working out. It also helps in the world of being a wonderful father to my son, is being disciplined. So I would say that has really opened my eyes up, is really how to stay strongly disciplined, and that starts with mindset. You have to have the right mindset to tell yourself, hey, don't eat that food, or hey, that's not a good deal, don't buy it.
I love that. I showed you my before and after picture earlier. We talked a little about Gary Brecka.
Oh my God,
Gary. I created a concept about 4.5 years ago in that journey called incremental, not monumental. Small daily disciplined decisions over time always equal monumental results. Success cannot escape you when you do the right things every single day. So,
but people don't want to be disciplined. That's the biggest thing. But also on top of that, they don't want to be consistent. You have to be consistent with those little wins to get that ultimate win.
Yep. And that's what I love doing, man. When I coach people on performance and morning routine and daily routine, I'm like, listen, I'm not the most talented guy in the world. I'm not the best looking guy. I'm not the most gifted guy, but you will not get up at 4 a.m. more times than I do. You will not walk through your morning routine and goals, gratitude, affirmations, top 3. You won't do the things that I do more than I do them. And every single day.
No, I'll tell a quick story. You are 100% on that. You have to have that mindset. And I know we're coming up on time. I have that mindset when it comes to work. You will not outwork me. I worked a position one time that I worked 36 hours with no break. The boss came in, yelled at me because they just got fined by the state of North Carolina. So that right there, having that mindset that you have, and you pour that to your whole inner circle, is just phenomenal. And you can, the great thing is once you have it, you can then help other people too.
Chris, final thoughts for our audience today?
Yep. Final thoughts is, I know you probably got a lot in the earful out of this whole podcast, but final thoughts is definitely stay disciplined, stay consistent with what you're doing. I promise you will see that success. Definitely make sure you follow Ken and I on social media. But yeah, stay disciplined, stay consistent.
Now I got to ask you another question after you just said that.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you tell yourself when on the outside it doesn't look like you're winning, or you're just tired? Like I do want to have that cookie. I do want to have that cake.
So that's the big thing is I don't get tired. I don't get sick. If you're gonna go around, I mean, there's so many books out there. The placebo effect. I have a headache, so I'm gonna take this, this pill that, Advil, or I'm gonna take a pill that is really nothing. And then once you take that pill, so I'll find the book and I can give it to you. But one of the books I remember reading that the statistics show out of the scientific study is that individuals who had that placebo pill compared to the quote unquote Advil pill actually healed faster and stronger. And so if you're going to tell yourself you're sick, if you're going to tell yourself you're tired, if you're going to tell yourself you're not going to do it, well, you're right. You're sick, you're tired, you're not going to do it. So it starts with your mindset. Don't adopt that type of negativity in your mind. And we all have it at certain levels. I'm sure Ken and I can tell you there's certain times that it starts to creep up. And the goal is to shut it up as fast as possible. And you do that with positive affirmations to yourself. One thing I'll never forget my father told me is that Muhammad Ali used to jog next to the bus. And when he stood up and the teacher said, "What are you going to be?" He says, "I will be the heavyweight champion of the world." And he told me another thing too, is that he would look in the mirror, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it still resonates with me, is that he'd look in the mirror and say, I look good, I feel good, I'm the greatest. And look, you're not cocky when you're doing that. You're giving yourself positive affirmations, and you're telling your body, you look good, you feel good, you're the greatest. And Ken and I, I'm sure, goes through a lot of, negativity throughout the day, a lot of situations that we have to go ahead and make sure that we can get a grasp of and take care of. And if we had poor mindsets, we wouldn't be sitting in the chair, or you wouldn't want to be listening to us. Because on our own time, when I'm meditating, I'm telling myself, I look good, I feel good, I'm the greatest. This will, whatever situation I'm dealing with, we will get through this. We just need to find that solution, but I know we will get through this. And you have to adopt that mindset.
I love that. I just shared last week with our collective on our Wednesday night call. It's never as bad as you think it is, but it's also never as good as you think it is.
Oh, yeah.
And it helps you just develop this even keel. Like, man, I'm just going to stay even keel. If it's great, great. If it's not great, I'm still good. I just know, because it's going to get better. If I keep doing the work, people are like, dude, how did you lose almost 100 pounds?
You stay consistent.
You know what I said? I ate less than I worked out every day. I mean,
it's shocking. Even if you didn't work out, it's all about your diet.
Yeah,
So you stayed
is.
consistent, and you stayed disciplined.
Yeah.
Disciplined not to eat shitty foods, and you stayed consistent
Yep.
with eating healthy.
Yeah, I love that, dude. Well, dude, we're out of time. We're gonna have to do another one because we didn't even talk about health at all, which is huge.
Oh, I know.
We talked about that for 19 minutes before. Chris, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, find out more about you, and connect with you?
Yeah, best way to get in touch with me is directly on Instagram, Chris_Salerno_. And my CMO may get on me for this, but for the next couple of weeks, we'll be running. If you go to the link in our bio, you can go ahead and fill out the information on our Instagram page. And we are going to be flying one lucky person out to Charlotte to spend a weekend with myself, be around me in the office, see my day-to-day, what I'm doing, sit on investor calls with me, you name it. So if you go follow me directly on Instagram, Chris_Salerno_. Make sure you go ahead and click in that bio to enter to win, to come out, spend a week with me Q1 of next year.
So you're going to give them pre-workout so they can keep up with you for the weekend, or how does that work?
Well, I can give them some lion's mane, some healthy stuff. But I will tell you, after those 3 days you're with me, you will be very tired. My son can't handle it. A lot of people can't handle it. You will be very tired, but I will say you will leave with a wealth of knowledge, new information that you haven't learned, and you'll get obviously my personal cell phone number, all that fun stuff. But would love to have you come out. You can see our office, talk to our team, be around our team, see how energetic our team is, because they feed off of me. If I came in doom and gloom, they're not going to feed off of that. They're going to, or they will, but they're going to be doom and gloom, and they're not going to want to enjoy work. So I'm 100%. Excited to hopefully pick, one winner from your podcast to come out and hang out with me for a weekend.
I love that, guys. Chris_Salerno_ on Instagram. Hit the Linktree link down there. Register for this, guys. Listen, my new book is called Proximity is a Cheat Code. Relationships, every time you go to the next level in your core 5 areas, whether it be faith, health, relationships, business, or finances, it is always tied to a relationship. You've met someone, they've spoke something into your life, you've learned something for them that helps you go to the next level. Chris, thanks for joining us today, my friend.
Ken, thanks so much for having me.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us on another episode of As the Leader Grows. We'll see you next week with a new guest. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Perfect.
Boom.
Loved it.
Dude, thanks, my friend.